point of Zimun, the Mishnah had said, the Mishnah said if there's a, we spoke about different groups of people joining in together. So if you have one group here and one group there, the Mishnah spoke about it. If you have two groups of people in the same house, if they see each other, the Mishnah says that they join into one group if they see each other. Now the Mishnah says a different halacha. The Mishnah says, "Im yishamash beinehem," if they are. The Gemara says. I'm sorry. The Gemara says, "Tana." We learned in a brisa. Im yishamash beinehem shamash kusarfan. If there's a waiter, that means you have two groups of people and they're eating, but the groups don't see each other. And they're eating, but they came together. For instance, let's say you have a simcha. It seemed like from the Gemara, let's say you have a simcha. And the people in the two groups of people eating together, but they don't, they're two different parts of the room. And let's say there's something dividing the room. Let's say there's a curtain between and you don't see each other. You hear each other, but you don't see each other. But you're all coming together for the purpose of this, let's say by COVID-19. So some people ate in a sukkah, and they ate in the sukkah, which each table has some sort of divider between them, some sort of sheet between them. So if there's such a thing between them, but if let's say you're eating, there's a waiter, and the waiter is serving both tables, and the waiter Shulchan Aruch puts in, and you're all coming together as a group. Meaning it's not like you're doing your thing, you're eating separately, individually in the sukkah. Let's say a person has the families are coming together. Let's say the grandpa coming together, the grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and they're all coming to eat the meal together, but they have they can't see each other because they have this thing in between them. They have this curtain that's in between each table, but there's a waiter that's serving both tables. That waiter will create it like it's all one. And here the point is that Mr. Brewer says, he says, even though he doesn't eat at all, we already had in the Mishnah that you could count the waiter in, that the waiter who serves the people, he can be counted as a zimun if he eats a kazayit, if he eats with them. Let's say you have two people, and you have a third person who's the waiter, and he eats with you, and he eats a kazayit, even though he's on the go, he's coming and going. We said in the Mishnah, you can count the waiter to be number 3 on a zimun. And here we're saying a different point. Here we're saying that if you have a waiter in between, even though he's not eating at all, the way the Mishnah, the Chafetz Chaim writes, but he joins the two together, the two groups, and Mishnah Berurah says even if they're in two houses and they don't see each other, the waiter unites the people because he now and the Shulchan Aruch puts in the point ukagon that this idea that the waiter could join the two groups together, when you enter with the idea that you're coming to join together, that's when the waiter could serve as a joiner to join the groups together. Now, let's see what he says over here. Now, then the Shulchan Aruch brings another opinion, which also came into play a lot during COVID-19. Shulchan Aruch says, that's the first opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. And then the Shulchan Aruch says, there are those that say, if let's say between the two houses, let's say you have houses on two sides of the street, and between the two houses, there's a Reshut Rabim. People are walking from one place. There's a public street between the two houses. Would you say that you could join the two houses in for zimun together if there is a street that's interrupting them, that's in between them? So some say that even if the people are coming together for the point of eating together, if there's a reshut rabim mafseket b'shnei batim, if there's a that's mafseket b'shnei batim, that creates a separation between the two houses. Einon mitztarfin b'shum inyan. They don't join. They can't join together because this public place creates a separation. And the Taz says it's not only it has to be a public domain in between. If there's a path, a private path that's separating the two houses, you see a lot of times you see houses. You have, let's say, two houses right next to each other. So there's really there's no path. There's a lot of times there's no path in between. There's just, let's say, there's grass in between two houses that are adjacent to each other. Let's say it's my grass. I don't have grass, but let's say if it's my grass, this house and that next house, and there's no place for people to really walk in between. There's no path in between. That's where we say you could join the two houses together. But if there's a path in between, then some say that would be a interruption. Now, so it seems that that's a second opinion. It's only a yesh misha omer. The general rule is when the Shulchan Aruch says the first opinion, then he says yesh misha omer. The main opinion is the first opinion, it would seem. So I think that's what's probably what some people did by COVID-19. If some people want to compare the laws of Zimun to the laws of Minyan, you compare the laws of Zimun to the laws of Minyan. So if you would be on two different sides of the street, if we're all coming together to pray Mincha, which are with together, even if we're two different sides of the street, you could go ahead and we see that it seems like if they see each other, as long as you see each other, that should be sufficient. So that's what some people relied on during COVID-19 for some of the minyanim that they made. Okay, Tana Rabbanan. Now we'll learn it in the Gemara. Yayin, when it comes to wine, the Mishnah says, it's going on the Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say regarding wine? The Mishnah says you do not say a bracha on the wine until you put some water into the wine. The Mishnah says you need to put some water into the wine according to one opinion, because one opinion says that that's Rabbi Eliezer. Maybe the Gemara will explain what's going on. Why? The wine back then was very strong. The grapes were very strong. The wine was very strong, and you had to go ahead and dilute the wine with some water in order to be easily to drink it pretty easily. You needed to dilute it with water. So therefore,
but the reality is that we are sweetening the gevurot with the chasadim, which water represent the chasadim, and the wine is the gevurot. That's what it is.
Okay, so but that's on a but on a more simplistic level, it's the idea that we need to go ahead and that when you drink wine, what you need, it needs to be a beverage that's a positive. It should be wine. The first opinion holds that this is not a real drink because it's too strong. It's too strong. Like imagine if you would want to drink a concentrate. When you ever see apple juice concentrate, that you have to go ahead and you put a little bit and then or tea concentrate. right? You have to put a little bit very strong. You can't drink it by itself. Therefore, that's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. And the Chacham says no. Meaning, what Rabbi Eliezer says that the bracha on wine before you dilute it would be a borei priya eitz. Meaning, only once you diluted the wine, would the bracha be a borei priya gefen. Because then, after you dilute it, now it's proper. The wine has been diluted with water, so now it's proper. And now the bracha would be after you dilute it, then the bracha will be borei pri gefen. But before you diluted it, then the bracha would be a borei pri eitz, because it never was elevated to the status of a gefen. But remember, wine has its own bracha, right? We give wine a special bracha, correct? Instead of having, the bracha of see, a lot of other liquids we say a shahakol on the juice of other liquids, but Rashi I think says over here that the bracha would have been a borei priya eitz. It's like the grape itself, and the bracha would be borei priya eitz. The bracha would be borei priya eitz. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. And the Chachamim omrim, now, again, so and that's really the language of the Gemara. If you didn't, as long as you did not put there, your bracha, aim of bracha bar pri eitz, ela bar pri, you don't say bracha bar pri gefen, ela bar pri eitz. I wanted to see what the commentary says over here. Okay. So since it did not reach the level of improvement that we needed to reach, you would say a bracha of bar pri eitz. And you could use it to wash your hands. Meaning, you want to wash your hands for netilat yadayim, and let's say you don't have water. You want to use, if you want to use the wine to wash your hands. See, the question is, the law is, you need to use water to wash your hands, right? Or maybe you don't need to use water. That's what we'll see. Or maybe we'll see how do we define the wine? How do we define the wine before you diluted it with water, when it's just a raw wine? So Rabbi Eliezer says that you go ahead and you could use it to wash your hands, because as long as you did not put water into it, it's not cold wine. It's not cold wine. And what is it called? And it's called fruit juice. And since it's called mei peros, the water. Morning, good to see you. Morning to see everybody. Since it's called water, it's mei peros. So therefore, we'll be able to. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome back. So therefore, it's kosher. You could use it to wash your hands for netilat yadayim. That's the opinion of Rashi. And according to Rashi, it would seem that you could use juices from fruit. If you want to take orange juice, let's say if a person has orange juice, he doesn't have water, could he wash his hands? Thank you for joining us. Just make sure you say Birkat Torah first. You say Birkat Torah first. You want to go ahead and could you use the orange juice to wash your hands for netilat yadayim? So the Gemara is going to discuss the issue of wasting. Look, orange juice is not water. Water is it's not so expensive. Orange juice is expensive, so you're wasting. What happens if you don't have any water? In a place with no water, can you use orange juice? Can you use apple juice to wash your hands? So according to Rashi, so far we see in the Gemara, that seems to say yes, that it's considered juice. It's considered it's the water of the fruit, and therefore you could technically use it to wash your hands in a place that you're stuck and you have no other water to use. We would say that that would be a substitute. And so too, this opinion says, so too, there's an opinion that says wine. If you press the grapes and you didn't dilute it with any water, so since you didn't dilute it with any water, it's not real wine yet, because the wine was very strong. So therefore, this opinion says you could use it to wash your hands for Netilat Yadayim. It's called water of the fruit. It's considered like it's the water of the fruit. It's not the fruit itself. It's the water of the fruit. But if you once you put water into the water together with the wine, so now it became proper wine. So once it became proper wine, then muvachin alav bor pei gefen, and at that point you already go ahead and say the bracha bor pei gefen. Ve'ein notlin mimenu liyadayim, and then you can't use it. You can't use it to wash your hands. Good morning, Jake. Why? Because you can't wash your hands with wine, only with water. And therefore, once you diluted you made a proper wine, you can't use wine for Netilat Yadayim. Because the halacha that the rabbis instituted that you're supposed to wash your hands before hamotzi, the way this opinion understands, is that it has to be cold water. It has to be in the water family. And once it becomes wine, it's no longer water. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. The Chachamim disagree. They say ben kach or ben kach, whether you put water into it, whether you did not put water into the wine, right? They had the raw wine, they squeezed the grapes. See, they say in both cases, they say that the bracha is bor pei gefen, because even though you did not add water to the wine, they still feel it's still considered wine. And the Gemara will explain later, how do you drink such a thing if you didn't add any water to it? It's so strong. But the Chachamim say it's considered wine. Now, once you say it's considered wine, so then two halachas come, two laws come from the fact that it's wine. If it's wine, then it's called the gefen, then the bracha is bor pei gefen, right? Because that's the bracha saying wine. And not only that, ein notlin mimenu liyadayim. You can't use it to wash your hands because it's wine, and you can't use wine. Only water would be permitted to wash your hands. Now, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, it's in Simon Kuf Ayin Aleph, Sif Aleph. So Kuf Ayin Aleph, Sif Aleph says like this. He says you should not. He says you should not use. See, here he says you should not use wine to wash your hands. But then there's another halacha that we'll see about the wine. The Simon Kuf Samach Sif Yud Beis, because here he's talking about you're going to be wasting the wine. So if you're going to be wasting the wine, you shouldn't be using wine to wash your hands. You should be using water to wash your hands. But in Simon Kuf Samach Sif Yud Beis, let's see what he says about this question. He says the following. He says there are those that say that when you wash your hands from Mayim Rishonim, you wash your hands from Motzi, the only thing you could use is water. That's really Rashi's opinion, the Ravid's opinion, and if it's not water, you cannot use it to wash your hands for Netilat Yadayim. Right. but I mean, I'm saying we find in the morning, when you get up in the morning, maybe if your hands, you use your, you could go ahead, if you have no water, you find other things that we would use to wash our hands or to clean our hands, some other things. But when here we're talking about to wash for bread. For bread, we're more strict. And bread, some say you could only use water, and therefore it's coming to exclude, according to the Mishnah Berurah, this opinion would say, not like Rashi, would say that you can't use fruit juice, apple juice, orange juice, you can't use because that's not called water. And certainly you can't use wine. However, there are those that say that there's a second opinion in Shulchan Aruch, which is the Rashba, that says some say that wine is kosher for washing your hands. You could use wine, which that would be the case, I would say, if you're stuck. The Shulchan Aruch says later on you're not supposed to use wine to wash your hands, unless it's because I'm saying I would say because first why should you waste wine if you have water? But if you have no wine, you could use. Some say you could use wine, whether you put in water into it, whether you did not put any water into it, except lechatchila, you're not supposed to do that because you're wasting. You're making light of something which is important. Because wine is an important beverage. You go ahead and you take an important beverage and you go ahead and you waste it. But if you're stuck, you have nothing else. So according to this opinion, you would be able to go ahead and use wine or other juices. And the Chafetz Chaim says, because this opinion holds you do not need only water to wash your hands. And it's not considered, disgracing food because you're using it. You have no other. You're stuck. You're using it. You have no other option. The way the Chafetz Chaim says, there is the Ashkenaz rabbi says there's an opinion that says only if the wine is white wine. Some say, but if it's red wine, so red wine is already doesn't even have the color of water. Okay, now, and then the Shulchan Aruch brings another opinion that says that all fruit juices. Some say that all fruit juices, if you're stuck, you could use all fruit juices. And this opinion holds that wine you never could use, but fruit juices, he says, they're considered water, similar to the Rashi's opinion that fruit juice, that's Rashi's opinion. See, some make a distinction between fruit juice and wine. This is the opinion, and some say no. So therefore, this opinion says that you can use all fruit juices when you're stuck, but wine you cannot use. And morning, Aaron. Morning, good to see you.
You have to be kosher.
Oh, so very good. According to it is. I mean, I don't think it would have to be kosher that if you're stuck in that situation. That wine, you're not drinking the wine, and you can't drink the wine that's not kosher. We have to see more about having benefit. Might depend, but having benefit, that we have to look up that halacha question. The benefiting from the wine, if it's not kosher wine, you wash your hands. But I don't know that they forbade that type of benefit. They forbade you to use not kosher wine to drink not kosher wine.
We did
Not kosher in wine.
I mean, wine from a guy, wine made by a guy, we consider that not kosher wine, right? I can't drink wine that's made from a Gentile. Okay, right. It's
you can receive it. You can benefit from it.
Right. So right. So Kiva is saying sometimes we say you can't benefit from that wine. So if you can't benefit, maybe you can't even wash your hands with it. Right. Okay. They're starting the slichot. Have a great day, Yosef. Well, have a great day. Thank you for joining.
Let's do this.
maybe like